So I always prefer to do something than not to doing something. So even when I wake up in the morning, I want to go jogging or not, then I'm tired. I'm not going to jog today. But I remember that whenever I'm doing something, and when I do something, I never regret.
Dotan, Knaan, thank you for joining me on 20 Minute Leaders. How are you today?
Good, good. Nice to meet you.
We
Happy to
have,
hear.
thank you. We have a lot to cover. But before we cover all the mileage we have for this interview, we have to talk about your bike journeys. You started by mentioning to me that you traveled with your wife with tents on the bikes all across Europe, and you even traveled with the whole family on a non-competitive cycling event through Iowa, right?
Yeah, yeah. Bike is me. I am the bike. So also in the Silicon Valley, I used to bike every day to walk and back. And here in Israel now, I'm in Israel. Also, we are in Tel Aviv because in Tel Aviv you can cycle also everywhere. So I try to avoid my car, and also it's good because my son is very he likes he is he protesting against also the climate change. So I'm very proud to that my son can be proud of me that I'm using bike whatever I can. And yeah, and as student I cycle with my wife for 2 months in Europe with bike. And again then another trip in that was in Scandinavia, then another time in Scotland, and then in the United States also I cycled a lot, and including with my family. One week we crossed Iowa from one side to the other. There is a big event called Ragbri, and that was very very. I
I'm
like it.
constantly in awe at the people that I'm speaking to, like yourself. You're so busy you're so successful in your domain, yet you have these incredible passions and adventures, and you don't do them lightly. You go all the way. You travel 2,000 miles with your wife with tents, or you travel all across Iowa with your family. I'm gaining inspiration for myself, but I have to go to the main event and to the main mileage. You're a researcher at Samsung. You're an expert in computer vision and augmented reality, and I'm especially excited for this episode because I'm excited to talk about what is augmented reality and where are we heading, especially in the context of your work. So, Datan, maybe can you take me back a little bit about your journey into this computer vision space, and then tell me a little bit about where we are?
Okay, so personally, my background is more computer vision and also a bit of computer graphics. And for me, augmented reality, virtual reality, we can discuss it. But that's what I like it is about the integration. So you take computer graphics and computer vision and integrate them and have something that you see. And for me also, that's also something that for me is very important is the feedback. So for me as a developer, that I develop something and I get the feedback. I don't need someone to tell me if it's better or not. I see if it's better. I see the reality in front
You
of
were
me.
the
It's not
user,
like
yeah.
I'm the user. It's not only a better algorithm that runs faster and someone say, oh, well, now it's faster, more efficient. What I like is just the interaction with the computer, with the screen. And if it's augmented reality, virtual reality is not only the screen, it could be also glasses. And, and
What drew
I
you
think
into computer vision starting out? Why,
what,
why going to
again, so
computer
what?
vision? What drew
Why,
you into it?
again, yeah, so the computer vision again. That's because of visual aspect. So because I see what I get and understand the world and how the computer can understand the world and how computer
Right.
can learn. And it's got just no. I started 20 years ago, even more, 25 years ago, and
Wow.
it was not so many cameras. Now everything is cameras. Every phone has camera, amazing camera. So the potential of computer vision just grew and grew, and understanding of of the image is much better.
Mm-hmm.
And again, direction, being able to see what you're doing, and that's what I like the most. And what's also very interesting is, because for us, the human, it's you see something, it's so obvious what you see, and but to teach computer to understand what you see, it's a big challenge, um, and that's part of now when we are for augmented reality. You ask about augmented reality is you have two parts. One is understanding the world, because you have to visualize. So maybe I'll just give a few words about what is augmented reality. Is also there are
Please.
several terms. There's virtual reality, where you see only only the graphics. You don't see the actual world. You just see
Right.
everything is graphics. And there's augmented reality or mixed reality. There are some differences between all that, but in general, let's call it augmented reality. That's you have the world, but on top of the world, you have some object that you add some information to the world. It could be through the screen of the phone, like that on the phone you see the world with a camera and also add some information. So Google has a lot of the very good tool Core, that gives you a lot of information. You can use it, and
Hmm.
it just gets better and better, because you understand the world, you can understand planes, you can understand what the
Right.
where everything is located. Personally, I prefer as a developer to work with the glasses. In the glasses like HoloLens, Microsoft, and those other Magic Leap and other companies. That's for me. That's the magic, because then you really see the world, and then you also you put the graphics on top
That
of that.
extra layer.
But yeah, but extra layer. But that's even more challenging, because you really have to understand the scene. You really have to understand not only the scene and where to put something, but you have to also track the head motion. So you have to understand how the head moves, because then you can really know how to render, how to locate the object in the right thing. And if you don't do it right, it looks wrong. So it's very we are as human again is very sensitive to that, and it's very difficult to trick us. And everything. It has to work very efficiently in real time, because you cannot have any latency. That's another challenge with augmented reality. The speed should be very, very processing speed should be that everything has to be very efficient, and like
Right.
that every jittering every in virtual reality you can cheat. In augmented reality you cannot really cheat, because
Right.
you can see the road. And and where it is now, I think most of many companies, big companies, they try and to do something. And for many years now, it's considered as something that is the next thing, but it's still promising, more promising than you have also also Facebook, and Google, and I know some rumors about Apple, and but no one really makes money of that. So it's still potential, because when you have it, and sometimes they call it like a Superman. Once you have these abilities, once you get, even if you don't like it, that's the claim, that in the future, even if someone doesn't like it, if for example I see you and I get some information that you cannot know about me, I have some advantage of top of you. So I don't really like the approach, but in general, that's reality. So if I have something that with augmented reality you get more information than someone without it, and so one day maybe you'll not. So you'll have, if you want to be in and know everything, you'll
Right.
need augmented reality, whether you like it or not. Um,
So, Dotan,
and
I would love to I would love to spend the last 5 minutes or so talking about where we're headed, because I am terribly excited and frightened of how our world is going
yes.
to look in a few dozen years, both in terms of people that are aging and loneliness, especially with COVID. I mean, it's become very apparent how necessary this technology is. But before that, I would still love to understand a little bit better what is essentially augmented reality today. So are people really actively working on this? Is this mainstream? And I'm drawing a parallel to autonomous vehicles. I had a great chat with a product manager at one of the leading autonomous vehicles company on this show, and one of the things that she mentioned was that, we had a big surge of technology. We've advanced a lot, and we've reached this like 95, 96% threshold, and now we're realizing that the last 5% is incredibly harder than we thought. And so we're
Yeah.
almost there, but we have such a big way to go, because that's the big threshold. Is that the same thing with augmented reality?
I think yes and no. So I think it is yes, because if you want something perfect, there's still a lot of things to do to make it work. I think there's the problem also with augmented reality is the awkwardness. So there's still
Right,
no killer application. So still, why would people like Google when they have the Google glasses? So
right,
yes, you get more information, but you look awkward. So if there's not enough extra information, still people waiting for this killer application that is not there yet. Maybe just games, but not it's not enough to just have
right,
games and entertainment. Um, but still, there's a lot of the technology is really it's getting there. So it's not too far for something that you can use, but expensive. So there are glasses like HoloLens, Magic Leap. That's something that costs $2,000-3,000 a piece. That's too much for consumers. So that's something that has to be solved before people can use it. Because with expensive ones, you have very good results, very, very good. But if you want something that is much cheaper, 10 times cheaper, then tracking is not good enough. And so, but that's, the hardware, when hardware is getting better, cheaper, cameras getting
right,
cheaper, then yeah, I think technology, of course, there's more to do improve, but I think we're in the right way. And again, the killer application, why would people do it? In the future, they're talking about also lenses instead of glasses. You don't see it, but I
unbelievable.
know it's very creepy. Uh, I don't know, but I think, yeah, I believe that that's something. If you, again, like even if you like it or not, I think
It's gonna
you
happen.
have to use it. It's going to happen. Yeah.
Because I'm asking this very honestly, because we had such a big hype and everybody was talking about it. And you had Magic Leap that was in stealth mode for so long, raising so much money, and then all of a sudden you stop really hearing about these advancements. You do have Oculus and HoloLens and those, but you don't really see me and my friends talking about these technologies as much as we did even 5 years ago, which is counterintuitive, because I would expect that now we'd be talking about it much more than before. I remember going to conferences, and the person with the Google Glass was the most popular person in the room. Uh, so what I'm hearing from you is that I can be optimistic, and I should be planning for a nearby future when it will be less awkward and more beneficial to take part in this new humanity.
Yes, I think that's the directions, and because again, there's so much things you can learn and do with that, and so much extra information you can get. So I think sooner or later, maybe later, but it's going to happen. And again, there's also the prices that's going to drop, and I think so many big players are there. So, and like you said, that it was very big hype, and some small companies were closed because it's difficult to you need
Right,
some air,
right.
but the big companies are still there, and I think it's going to happen. And maybe not as soon as they thought, but it's going to happen.
So now it's the part that I'm most excited about. Where are we heading? So let's talk. Let's say 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line. What do you envision our world will look like with augmented reality as part of our society? In a modest expectation, given the technology that you're expecting to grow, how do you envision humanity operating, or at least places like Tel Aviv, Silicon Valley, New York?
Okay, so maybe we have to separate between what I want and maybe what I think that's going to happen, because
I
it's
want to
not
hear
that
both of
I
them.
like. Yes, I like the technology. First of all, augmented reality, for like I said before, from that technology side, from my as a
Right.
developer, from the computer
For
vision,
dozens of
computer
years, yeah.
graphics integration. Yeah, but not but I'm not sure that as a user I really like it. So, so because if I just try to imagine all these creepy situations, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure I really like to have it in the future. It's also scary for me. Uh, but uh,
Wow.
but um, but if we just mention this Corona thing, so we sometimes you're far from a family, being able
Right.
to so that's the good thing. So I don't. So that's the thing that I really think that are beneficial. So you want to have now everything is virtual. We are in Zoom right now, but I want to make a meeting with you, and we want to discuss something that here is on the table. And with the
Right.
AR glasses, we can discuss it. Again, there's this. It's already possible with some. With more advanced headsets that are more too expensive, like I mentioned earlier. But now you can already look at the same object and look at that around it. So I think for for high techs, for many other for professional use, there's a lot of things that you can share and be able to gain a lot of and save like Zoom. You don't have to meet to do it. You can do it from home. And like you also mentioned, for the elderly people,
Right.
maybe they cannot read because it's too small. But now you can, assuming that you do the UI simple enough and intuitive enough, that's also a challenge because we know with computer we use the mouse and the keyboard, we're already used to it, but with augmented reality how to use. So there's a lot of challenges there, the UI part. So the technology, they have to hand tracking and head tracking, eyes tracking. None of that was very useful. So or not, it works, but not so. There's something, if you want to change it, do something like that to change the screen, or do something like that, or some signs that are not very intuitive. If
Right.
we solve that, so if I just mentioned that because we think about old people. So how, if you make it intuitive enough, and
Right.
maybe hopefully we'll find a way to interact with that. So family that want to meet each other, and together with the holograms or things like that, you can really feel like. So every time that you use augmented reality, even more virtual reality, sometimes I use it, and then when I'm done, I just take my glass off, and oh wow, I'm I'm in new I'm back to real
I'm
life.
back.
So
I'm
it's
back to
so
the
easy
boring
to
world.
yeah, it's so easy to forget about your environment when you're, especially with virtual reality. And that's something that's, I think that's, if we find again like some applications, that something that can do a lot of good. So
No, I'm
people,
I'm I'm terribly excited about the prospect of being able to talk with my grandparents from afar.
yeah,
Due to COVID, I can't go inside their house and visit them, and it kills me inside that. And I'm saying, like, why do I need to use video conferencing on Shabbat dinner to wish them Shabbat Shalom? I want to be able to be in the same room with them because it feels to me that we're almost there, and it's so relevant today, and it's going to continue being so relevant moving forward. And so I'm incredibly excited about this technology. Dotan, are you
and
are
one more thing is about the
go ahead.
haptic. There's a haptic, so haptic feedback. That's something is still missing, and that's more expensive. And that's part that is a bit behind,
Mhm.
because you also want to touch, you want to hug your grandparents. So if you could hug
Yes.
them or something, feel that. And there's some controllers that just vibrate a bit, but it's not much more than that. And the better ones are very expensive.
Right.
That's something that has to, maybe in 10, like you meant, ask about 10, 20 minutes, years. I hope that this one will get much better, because that will make a lot of difference.
Right. I just read an interesting review of the new PlayStation game console, which the PlayStation 5 introduces haptic feedback through the remote controllers so that you're more immersed into the game. And one of the things that they said, and I read a few of the designers decision making process, they said that they intentionally minimized the use of this new feature because they were afraid that humans will not be receptive to it yet. It'll be too much for them. So I'm especially curious, given what we talked here, about how we as humanity are going to accept this new reality. And just like you mentioned that you take off those glasses and you're back into the boring world or the default world, whatever, every person will experience it differently.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. Dotan, I want to really thank you for being so generous with your time. Well, I wanted to talk about J Ventures and some of the work that we do there, but we didn't have time for that. But I'd love to get from you three words that you would use to describe yourself.
So one is maybe active. So I always prefer to do something than not to doing something. So whenever, even when I wake up in the morning, I want to go jogging or not, then I'm tired. I'm not going to jog today. But I remember that whenever I'm doing something, when I do something, I never regret. Or even if
I
I
love
regret,
that.
I regret more times about things I didn't do than about something that I want to do. So whenever I have to think about should I do it or not, my approach is yes, do it. And if I like a startup, just do it.
I love it.
That's one thing. And the other thing is just no, I think I'm very calm, so it's very difficult for me to for someone to make me angry or I'm I have my. It's very difficult to make me mad. Maybe that's why I don't have so much startups because I'm calm.
You seem
um,
very fulfilled and calm, and I'm taking a lot of inspiration from that first word, being active and not regretting, even when your intuition says maybe this isn't right, but then you rationalize and you say, well, I'm more often than not, I don't regret. I'm enjoying the experience. So I think that's really wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah, thank you.
Dotan, thank you very, very much. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being so generous with your time. And I'll see you around the J Ventures meetings.
Yeah, see you. Bye bye.
Take care.
Nice to talk to you.